What's going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to teach you as simply as I possibly can how to scale your damage in Diablo 4. Now, when you look this up, you'll see a lot of discussions about damage buckets and multiplicative damage, and sometimes it's all paired with insane math formulas that look like they were written by aliens. It can be a bit overwhelming. So the aim of this video is simple. I'm not going to talk to you about math. I'm just going to give you 10 simple rules to follow that will account for all the behind-the-scenes math to help you maximize your damage output. So let's get into it. Rule number 1, get a weapon with high DPS. That's in the red box. You want that number as high as you can get it. A 925 item power weapon is always going to be maxed. You just have to upgrade your gear fully, so don't forget to upgrade. Number 2, get as many ranks of your damage skills as possible. You can find extra on gear. So in this case, you can see I have 9 out of 5 on Landslide, and the reason for that is because I have +4 ranks on my gloves. Number 3, get a lot of your primary stat. Now, each class has a primary stat. For Barbs, it's Strength, for Sorks, it's Intelligence, Necros, Intelligence, Druids, Willpower, and Rogues, Dexterity, but you'll see in your tooltip that this increases your skill damage, and it is one of those damage buckets you hear talked about a lot, so make sure to get that where you can. Number 4, make your target vulnerable. Various skills and aspects apply the vulnerable status effect to enemies, and when they're vulnerable, they take 20% more damage from you. This is also its own bucket, so you always want to be making things vulnerable. Number 5, stack critical strike chance. Crit chance can be found on gear, passive nodes, etc. You'll see it all over the place. Your class does have a stat that also boosts crit, like you can see in the case of our druid, it's dexterity. That won't be the primary way you get it, but it is there to help you out. You want to crit as often as you can, so stack that up. Number 6, and this is probably the most important one, I can't emphasize it enough, look for the X in damage descriptions. This is multiplicative, that word you hear a lot. Passives, aspects, and glyphs can all have these, and make sure you want to meet the conditions often. So what I mean by the conditions is, if we look at Envenom in the top right, I get a 30x bonus crit damage against poison enemies. So there's 2 conditions. The enemy has to be poisoned, and I have to be critting. So when you're doing a build, you really want it all to synergize around creating the conditions that allow your best damage multipliers to work. So always keep that in mind. Number 7, don't overlook attack speed. It's not part of the actual damage formula, but just simple math, right? If you attack 1.5 times in the amount of time it would have taken you to attack once, that's 50% more damage that you've put out. Don't ever overlook attack speed. And with certain skills, this is more important than others, but it's always good to have. Number 8, this one's a caveat. If you're running an Overpower focused build, everything I'm saying is still true, but you really want to prioritize getting as much maximum life as possible into your build. And you want to prioritize making sure that you're always fully fortified, because those are the 2 mechanics that make Overpower go. Number 9, when it comes to other affixes on your gear, like more vulnerable damage or crit damage, the simplest way to choose is to prioritize whichever one's tied to the conditions you meet most often. If you make everything vulnerable, it is still good to keep stacking vulnerable damage, even though the multiplied portion of it is capped. So figure out what you do most often, choose those affixes, and then keep stacking multipliers to them where you can. And number 10, which does work a little bit with number 9, keep an eye on legendary Paragon nodes as you approach endgame. Some of these are really powerful, and they inform which affixes you actually want to choose. We're looking at the Earth and Devastation node, and this dictates that the more damage versus crowd controlled I have as a bonus on my gear, the more multiplicative I get from this legendary node. So keep an eye for these. They're kind of sneaky, but when you see them, you likely want to take them if you can meet the conditions. And that's it. To recap, get a high DPS weapon, get more ranks on damage skills, get your primary stat, make your target vulnerable, stack crit chance, look for the X, don't overlook attack speed. If you're an Overpower build, get max health and stay fortified. And choosing affixes is about meeting conditions that make those affixes go. And keep an eye on legendary Paragon nodes, because they could change everything. And that's it. If this video is helpful for you, it would help me out a lot if you left me a like. Leave me a comment if there's anything else you want to know about, and I'll see you for the next one.